What you've done in Egypt is to start with a small geographical area as phase one. You've learned your lessons. You've seen what's affordable. You've determined what's going to be in that package.
Hello, this is Dr. Nirmeen Ashur. I'm the Director of Sustainability and Green Transformation Unit at Egypt Healthcare Authority. It is my pleasure to interview Dr. Nikolas Kresp, Deputy Director General for National Health Insurance South Africa. Hello, Dr. Nikolas.
Hello.
Dr. Nikolas is a medical doctor by profession. He's a specialist in community medicine. He worked in many African countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Botswana, Namibia, Tanzania. And he is now appointed as the Deputy Director General for the National Health Insurance in South Africa. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Nikolas. Actually, it's amazing experience, amazing knowledge and career path. And we want you to benefit us and enlighten us about your experience regarding the financialization of health. From your experience, what are the early warning signs that financialization is beginning to undermine equity and public health objectives in a healthcare system?
Yeah, thanks very much. And it's very nice to be here. Thank you. So financialization is when the private healthcare starts to deliver healthcare services in a manner that generates huge profits, and they are driven by profits. And so when one begins to see that you're getting concentration of private sector providers and private sector funders, that's the first warning sign that you have now got problems developing. Because what they'll do is they start to list those shares on the stock exchanges, and they start making profits and paying those profits to their shareholders and paying dividends. And that means that money is no longer available for providing patient care. So that's a big problem for us in South Africa.
Yeah. But how can governments strike the right balance between leveraging the private investment and preventing commercial interest from overshadowing public health needs?
So I think there's no problem, and we don't have a problem with private providers delivering healthcare. But the problem is when they set their own prices and they're not properly regulated, then they tend to very quickly compete with one another on price and to chase prices up. So one of the things that we need to do is to make sure that we regulate the prices quite tightly. There's an extended problem in our country that the private sector is both privately financed and privately provided, and they enter into relationships with one another. They make it inordinately complicated so that it's very difficult for the public to understand what they are actually being insured for and what they are actually being given when they get healthcare. And so what happens is both the providers of that healthcare, the doctors and the hospitals, but also the public start to find ways to manipulate what they've been insured for.
Yes.
And the perverse incentives just get a massive ripple effect. And all of that ends up with additional pricing and additional profit taking, and it's not good for patient care.
From this extensive experience working in many African countries and talking about the challenges, what are the most critical institutional reforms that are required for a country that is trying to transition towards a functional single paid system?
Yeah, so that's why we've come to, and we are particularly interested in what's happening in Egypt. We are trying to implement a single payer model. We have a very complicated funding system for healthcare in South Africa with a dual public and private financing. 71 different insurance products in the private sector, looking after only 14% of the population. And then we have a complicated public financing where each of our provinces, which is like your governorates, get their financing separately. And so there's no national health budget. Mm-hmm. And with all these different funding streams, there's huge fragmentation. And what that means is duplication of administration, duplication of the standard treatment guidelines, different medicines lists, and you don't get efficiencies in the system at all. So that's what we are trying to do. And that's what we have seen that other countries who are now successful have done, gone for a single pool, single payer, publicly financed system. That's what Egypt is doing, and we like what you're doing.
So, how do you advise policymakers who remain reluctant to consolidate financing under a unified public scheme?
So there will be pushback because people are making a lot of money and they are taking unnecessary profits. You need the kind of commitment we've seen here with your Prime Minister coming, and we've seen clear evidence that other government departments are involved. That's the kind of response that you need. You can't leave it to your health ministry alone to try and do reform of the healthcare system. There's just too many ripple effects. So there are lots of things that we think that has been done well in Egypt, and we hope that we can learn from those lessons in our country.
Okay, so what is your final key takeaway message or advice that you would like to address to Egypt Healthcare Authority in order to more and more continue the implementation of the universal health coverage in Egypt?
So the biggest problem, I think, is sustainability. So one of the arguments that we are getting in South Africa is that it will never be affordable, because what people do is they take the most expensive price that's been inflated by all these things we've been talking about, they multiply it for the whole population and say it's not doable. What you've done in Egypt is to start with a small geographical area as phase one. You've learned your lessons, you've seen what's affordable, you've determined what's going to be in that package. The challenge now is that as you roll it out to the whole country, you have to be able to sustain that financing. And it gets complicated you've got a massive population, more than 110 million people.
Yes.
So it's fine to have started with a small geographical area, but now there's an expectation in the rest of your country. So we will be watching to see how you do that. We would encourage you to keep on at it, because equity is not negotiable and health is a basic human right. And that's what we around the world are all trying to strive for. Universal health coverage where there's no financial risk to the individual to get their health care. So congratulations, and we look forward to working more with you into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Nicholas. We have been really honored by hosting you, and we have also been honored by hosting the Minister of Health in South Africa in the 6th Annual Egypt Healthcare Authority Forum. Thank you, Professor.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.